Welcome to the deep dive. We've sifted through a mountain of source material articles, research papers, archival notes to give you the purest, most fascinating insight we can.
And today's topic is a big one.
It really is. We are cracking open a retrospective that frankly challenges the very foundation of modern history and science.
The sources are all dedicated to exploring something called atmospheric energy technology, or AET.
Right, AET. And we're talking about a widespread, supposedly almost forgotten source of free, limitless power. The claim is that it fueled a massive civilization until, very recently.
The core thesis here is truly jarring. The authors propose that up until about 200 years ago, so the 19th century, a prehistoric, highly advanced civilization existed.
And it spanned a huge area.
A huge area. Modern Siberia, Central Asia, the Middle East. And it operated entirely on this free atmospheric energy.
The most alarming part of the claim, though, is that the memory of this technology and the civilization itself was deliberately erased.
Systematically.
Yeah.
Wiped clean by the victors of a global conflict.
That is an explosive premise. So our mission in this deep dive is to impartially extract the claims. We're looking at the technical side of AET, how this civilization worked, and critically, how it vanished.
And the material relies heavily on deciphering old archival photographs and certain historical documents that have been reinterpreted.
So it's not that the tech failed.
Not at all. The documents suggest AET failed politically. The goal here is to uncover the claimed details of a devastating world war and the rewriting of history that followed.
A rewrite designed to enforce a new world order, one dependent on consumable resources.
Exactly. Securing control over the population.
Well, okay, let's unpack this incredible premise.
So if we start with the world before this alleged collapse, the source material paints a really detailed picture. It describes this global society of immense technical sophistication.
A world where everyday objects would seem like science fiction to us now?
Precisely. And the structure of this civilization is described as highly decentralized. They propose a society without a state in the classical sense.
What?
Largely because they basics, like energy and water, were completely autonomous. You didn't need a central grid or government utility.
So a highly developed, decentralized society. The sources explicitly claim their technology was so high that modern life would be seen by them as a severe degradation.
Yes, degradation, a sort of utopian technical mastery that just stands in sharp contrast with our modern world of scarcity. But this era was allegedly ended by a massive conflict.
Wait, hold on. The sources are claiming a global war that fundamentally reshaped our planet happened only 150, 200 years ago, and we have zero collective memory of it.
That's the claim.
That's a massive thing to hide. How do they address the counter-evidence or lack of evidence for an event that huge?
That's where the concept of historical erasure is so central. The authors argue the historical timeline we accept today is entirely engineered.
Fabricated.
Completely. They claim this multi-stage world war, spanning the 19th century and ending partly in the early 20th, involved two opposing groups of humanity fighting across all continents.
And the winner gets to write the history books.
A winner gets to rewrite everything, all of world history and crucially all of the physical sciences. The goal was to push the planet into a new technological order where control was centralized.
So sciences like physics and chemistry were altered.
Altered and standardized,
Yeah.
specifically to mathematically prove the impossibility of producing atmospheric energy. Just wipe it from institutional knowledge entirely.
And the narrative suggests the physical consequences of this war were just as catastrophic. We're talking about an environmental disaster described as the complete burnout of vast territories.
Yes, the authors claim this turned previously fertile, inhabited hubs. They specifically cite the Sahara and Karakum deserts into the lifeless landscapes we see today.
And this wasn't just a localized event.
No. Some of the source material claims the war covered the planet in a layer of dust and fine ground particles, several meters deep in some places.
Wow.
And they link this cataclysm directly to global climate change and a major alteration of the global water balance. By deliberately destroying the complex man-made water systems that supported that earlier civilization.
It's hard to wrap your head around that. Using familiar geography like the Sahara and giving it this radical, very recent origin story. What evidence do they use for this advanced civilization? It can't all be theory.
The proof, they argue, isn't in traditional archaeology. It's in modern digital archives. Old photographs, engravings, paintings.
The kind of stuff we scroll past every day.
Exactly. And they claim these images show artifacts defying modern logic. For instance, they'll point to an old photo of a street lamp that's clearly lit up, but with no visible wires.
Or strange devices attached to buildings that serve no modern engineering purpose.
Right, they're asking us to look at the visual record of the 19th century and see hidden technology, not just archaic design.
Like a secret code embedded in plain sight.
It is. It's objective proof, in their view, of a superior technical reality that was destroyed. So we have to understand the technology they suppressed. What was AET?
AET, atmospheric energy technology. The core principle was gathering and concentrating energy, what they call atmospheric electricity.
And the sources are very insistent that this is entirely different from the AC/DC electricity we use today.
How so?
Well, modern electricity is generally about a closed circuit, right? AET, as they define it, involved tuning a massive device to the ambient electrical potential of the atmosphere.
And the device was the building itself.
The building wasn't just a consumer of power. It was the power plant. Energy was gathered by special components built right into the structure.
Hidden components.
Often, yes. And then it was channeled through the building's metallic frame, which acted as a massive, sophisticated antenna or resonator.
So the whole building is tuned to collect this ambient charge from the air. No need for a power station, no need for fossil fuels.
Yeah.
What's fascinating here is the potential power output. What did this unlimited free power actually look like in a typical home?
The sources suggest there was, theoretically, no limit to the power. Practically, it depended on things like location, terrain, and the size and materials of the building's collecting components.
And here's where it gets really interesting for the average person. AET-equipped houses were fully autonomous.
Completely. They operated free of charge all year round, independent of climate zones.
Imagine life where your heating, your lighting, your hot water, it's all free, autonomous, and just there.
It's almost utopian, isn't it?
Right.
A world with a $0 utility bill. But the sources do reveal a striking social stratification in the last stages of AET use.
So even with free, limitless energy, hierarchy still emerged.
It seems so. Affluent homeowners, people who could afford these large, complex AET houses, they enjoyed complete autonomy.
And the less fortunate.
They were reportedly relegated to using older methods. The sources explicitly say they were left burning hydrocarbons for their daily needs.
So there's a technological divide based on wealth.
Yes. And while there were municipal efforts to build collective AET producers, the energy often had to be sent to older homes using traditional wires.
That's a profound social observation. Okay, so let's move to applications. How did this energy translate into daily life? The first one was lighting.
Right, lighting was the most direct use. It required minimal transformation. The key thing to understand is that the light bulbs used a single wire connected to the building's metal frame.
So not completing a circuit like today, they were just reacting to the field.
Exactly. The simple bulbs were just glass balls with special gas inside that would glow. But the wealthy had these incredibly elaborate designs.
What kind of designs?
The sources show these glass spheres with intricate sculptures inside them, flowers, birds that glowed purely from the AET field, true works of art.
And you can find these in museums today.
You can. And this is a key technical detail they highlight. Museums often adapt them for modern electrical networks, but that requires fundamentally changing their internal wiring to work on a two-wire grid.
It alters their original purpose and demonstrates the difference in the physics involved.
Precisely. Now, while lighting was direct, heavy-duty tasks like heating or industrial power required a transformation step.
Using special devices, these boilers.
Right. These boilers converted the gathered atmospheric energy into usable thermal output. In factories, this was used to create powerful steam.
Which then powered generators and machinery. The authors describe it as approaching a perpetuum mobile effect.
And that ties back to the visual evidence. You see archival photos of old factories with all these belts and gears running, but the primary power source that's creating the steam, it's often mysteriously missing from the records.
Suggesting a deliberate omission.
That's the argument. For domestic use, the heating systems were elaborate. The sources describe these intricate porcelain boilers, status symbols, and heavier metal ones.
But they didn't burn anything.
No. Their original function was to take the AET, heat the air inside, and then distribute that warm air through a network of air canals hidden in the walls and floors.
Like the systems used in royal palaces. Silent, radiant heat.
Exactly. And the historical irony they point out is that after AET was destroyed, these same beautiful porcelain boilers were crudely repurposed.
They were gutted.
Gutted to become primitive ovens for burning coal or wood. Their true function was lost.
And AET powered smaller things too, like irons, doorbells.
Yes, samovars, all sorts of everyday items. But maybe the most compelling detail, because it's hiding in plain sight, is about the water supply.
Okay.
Water was pumped using steam produced by AET. Now, if you look at old photographs of buildings, especially industrial ones, you see these tall pipes or structures,
Smokestacks.
what we call smokestacks. The sources make a stunning counterclaim. They say these pipes were actually AET gathering components.
So not vents at all.
Not vents, they were condensers and collectors. Some concealed even more components inside.
So if the buildings were powered by AEC, they never needed to burn fuel, which means the famous smokestacks on these buildings never actually produced smoke.
According to the source material, no. Smoke only started appearing after AET was destroyed, and the autonomous boilers were ripped out and replaced with conventional ovens burning coal and oil.
So the architecture itself was the energy collector. What we call a smokestack is just a relic of a resource-free function.
That's the idea. It completely reframes architectural history.
It does. It suggests we're living amidst the ruins of a global power network without even recognizing the components. Now, if AT was so successfully erased, why do the sources claim it saw a brief revival?
This brings us to the historical irony of the mid-20th century. The sources claim that Joseph Stalin in the USSR saw AET as a forbidden legacy.
And an ideological weapon.
A potent one. He wanted to revive it, to juxtapose the self-sufficiency of communism against the capitalist world's dependence on oil and gas.
And this was tied to Cold War preparation.
Heavily. After World War II, AET restoration was seen as a way to survive a potential nuclear conflict with the U.S., which would obviously destroy traditional power grids.
So new buildings were designed to be double-purpose.
That was the strategic core of it. They'd run on conventional power day to day, but were engineered to switch to a fully autonomous AET supply in case of war.
The sources point to the famous Moscow skyscrapers, the Seven Sisters, as the prime examples of this.
They do. They weren't just decorative. They were designed to switch to autonomous supply, reserve excess power, and even recreate the ancient city's unified engineering network.
There's also mention of AET houses for Arctic explorers.
Yes, to help develop new oil fields, which is a very paradoxical application when you think about it.
It is. But despite all this, Stalin maintained a precarious balance.
He consciously chose not to use AET on a global scale. He knew or believed it would instantly crash the oil economy the West relied on.
And the final end of this revival.
It was violent and immediate. The entire restoration project was dismantled right after Stalin's death in 1953.
The sources claim specific political factions just eliminated the program.
Which, again, underscores the political nature of AET's disappearance. The resource-based economic structure was prioritized over technical autonomy.
So this deep dive has taken us from a decentralized, almost utopian past to a catastrophic global war and all the way to a secret Cold War arms race.
But we connect this to the bigger picture. The sources present a powerful, unified narrative. A technology that provided free, autonomous energy for everything. Light, heat, water, industry was allegedly erased.
Erased by a political and military agenda focused on creating a world order dependent on consumable resources, which guarantees centralized control.
That's what it boils down to.
The key takeaway for me is the sheer contrast between that vision of autonomous living and our current reality of resource dependency. It forces you to look at everyday objects differently.
The ornamental structures on old towers, those repurposed antique heaters, the decorative bulbs in museums.
And you have to wonder if their true function is hidden just beneath the surface of the established narrative.
Which raises an important question. If the source material claims that every modern energy science was deliberately altered to prove AET's impossibility, how should we look at the historical timeline of things like the electric grid, the oil boom? What visual artifacts defying modern logic might you spot today in old architecture, hidden in plain sight, just like those repurposed water pipes we now call smokestacks?
The narrative suggests the evidence of a forgotten past is literally built into the world around us. Keep looking.